Shalom, everybody. Forgive me for my voice. I basically lost it after singing and dancing over Simchat Torah, a holiday where we celebrate the Torah, celebrate life, even as we go through all the tragedy, and we're in the middle of a war, and I have two sons fighting in the war, and I'm about to join the IDF reserves again from the war effort as well. Forgive my voice, because I lost it, because trying to focus on the happiness that we have to offer and keep everyone alive, even those not with us anymore because of the tragedy. So here we go. The Israeli Air Force just struck Iran in an unprecedented retaliatory attack. Remember a few weeks ago, Iran attacked Israel with the largest ballistic missile assault on a nation in modern warfare. And today, Israel finally retaliated. Let me just take a step back for a moment. Late Friday night, very early Shabbat morning, around 2 a.m., I was woken up hearing airplane after airplane flying over our heads here in the Judean Hills. The airplane flyover above lasted us a good 30 minutes or so. It was unbelievable. We have heard planes fly above our area before, but never like this. I immediately told my wife, who was also woken up like me, that I really hope the sounds of all those planes meant that we, Israel, are finally attacking Iran. When I woke up in the morning and I went to synagogue for the morning prayers, I found out that the rumor was that, yes, Israel attacked Iran. I only checked into the details after the Shabbat ended at the end of the day. And I must admit that even with the unbelievable achievement, with Israel flying around 100 planes, close to 1,000 miles to attack the biggest terror-supporting state in the world, the Islamic Republic of Iran, I'm personally still a bit disappointed that the attack did not do enough damage to Iran. And again, I know we're in this for the long game, but still, we want to get after them and destroy them. I have spoken on previous episodes that I doubted Israel would attack Iran's nuclear facilities because we actually need U.S. bombs and planes to do that. And the Biden-Harris administration are totally pressuring us not to touch Iran's nuclear facilities, and they're not giving us the bombs or the planes in order for us to do so. So it was clear to me that we weren't going to be able to attack Iran's nuclear capabilities at this time. But I did hope for a much more substantial attack on Iran that would put us closer to an end to their aggression against us once and for all. But even that didn't happen. So what did happen? What did Israel attack? And more importantly, what did Israel not attack? And why? So lurking behind this whole story of what Israel did and did not attack is a very unsettling reality. One that every freedom-loving person, even if whether they support Israel or don't support Israel, they need to understand this. The pressure on Israel from the Biden-Harris administration to refrain from a full-on attack on Iran to destroy the nuclear capabilities, a justified retaliatory attack, came from the Biden-Harris administration, which included a betrayal by people within the U.S. intelligence community. And again, to put this all into perspective, Iran is a threat to America and the whole freedom-loving world, not just to Israel. Besides the fact that Iran is the mastermind behind the horrific massacre that took place against Israelis, massacring over 1,200 of us on October 7th, 2023, as well as being responsible for the overall plan to destroy Israel, which includes similar invasions and massacres by Hezbollah on Israel's northern border and rocket attacks from all their proxies across the Middle East. And yet, the Biden-Harris administration has not supported Israel in doing what the U.S. would do in our same situation if this was happening to them. Just as Israel was preparing for its strike against Iran, a jaw-dropping Pentagon leak revealed the entire Israeli plan that the Biden administration basically pressured Israel to give to them before they approve us from moving forward with our attack. Let that sink in. This was a deliberate exposure of Israel's attack strategy and tipping off the Iranians. Leaks like this are an enormous breach of trust and a dangerous move that could have catastrophic consequences for Israel's security. And it's a wake-up call that Israel cannot afford to trust U.S. intelligence agencies. Personally, I'm sure Israel knows that we can't trust the U.S. intelligence agencies. Again, there are plenty of great people working there, but there are moles inside who work there as well, who are the ones causing the problems. We can't trust them with our secret plans. And I'm secretly hoping that whatever was leaked was really an Israeli psyop to see if what we give them actually gets leaked. How am I so sure that we don't really trust them? Because known anti-Israel activists hold senior positions within the U.S. intelligence agencies. One is Arian Tabataeus, who has been named as possibly being the leaker of this recent document of Israel's planned attack on Iran. But she is not alone. Another high-ranking official in the U.S. intelligence services with a well-documented history of anti-Israel activism, and I've spoken about him before, is Maher Bitar. He's a well-known anti-Israel activist with no intelligence background, yet he's operating at one of the highest levels of U.S. intelligence, the one responsible for handing over intelligence information to the Biden White House, and then what information gets shared with other allies. And these two are not alone. There are more of them there. Now let's delve into Israel's unbelievable retaliatory attack on Iran and an analysis. So I would call it a tactical strike, but a missed opportunity. On the one hand, we can say that the operation against Iran's military infrastructure in this Air Force attack was successful in taking out some really, really significant threats from Iran. Israel's strike eliminated Iran's sophisticated air defense systems, which were meant to prevent the Israeli Air Force from ever being able to attack Iran. Israel just totally took out their air defense systems, leaving Iran totally exposed to further Israeli airstrikes. That is huge. Additionally, the Israeli Air Force took out key factories that produce components for Iran's ballistic missiles and military drones, the same ones that they have been using in their two previous attacks against Israel, therefore hurting Iran's ability to attack Israel in the future, which is also huge. However, according to the published information, it is clear that Israel did not target Iranian nuclear facilities, oil or energy sites, or even any high-profile Iranian government locations or government offices. Hence, the huge missed opportunity. So why did Israel hold back on attacking those targets that would have done real damage to Iran and hurt their further efforts to hurt Israel? The answer is, as you guessed it, the tremendous pressure from the Biden-Harris administration, especially in the final weeks leading up to the U.S. elections. Biden and Harris have basically pushed hard to stop Israel from targeting Iran's nuclear sites or its energy infrastructure, anything that could raise fuel prices or create instability, especially heading into voting day, but not just. They would also be pressuring us after or no elections happening either. So while Netanyahu's restraint may have prevented a diplomatic disaster with the Biden-Harris administration, this was a missed chance to truly cripple Iran's ability to threaten Israel or the world with its nuclear capabilities that it's developing. Some analysts believe that this strike was only the first step. Flying almost 1,000 miles to hit Iran's air defenses, Israel left a significant message that Iran is vulnerable, and they're providing strong speculation that Israel is holding off a full-scale attack on Iran's nuclear capabilities until after the U.S. election, hoping for a Donald Trump victory. Again, hoping because we don't know if he's going to win. Because a Trump administration would be much more supportive of decisive Israeli action against Iran, potentially even aiding in efforts to dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure once and for all. Otherwise, we're looking at another 4 years of a Biden-Harris type Obama administration committed to appeasing Iran, even while Israel faces existential threats from Iran. And don't think for a moment that the Biden-Harris administration wouldn't use its 2 months as a potentially lame duck administration to harm Israel if Trump would be elected by possibly withholding their UN veto or supporting the creation of a fake Palestinian state to press Israel into submission. The last time a Democratic administration was on its way out in the lame duck administration was President Obama, and he used his lame duck time to push through a damaging anti-Israel United Nations resolution. If they're willing to turn on Israel now, we know they will be relentless turning on Israel during a lame duck period. So obviously, there's a great risk if Harris wins the elections And then the pressure will continue upon Israel not to attack Iran's nuclear capabilities either after Harris is elected. All right, now let's go to Israel's issues. Another challenge of Netanyahu's is the senior IDF and security leadership, and this is something I've spoken about before. The challenges Netanyahu faces are not just international. In Israel, he's up against top military brass and security officials who have been pushing the Biden-Harris administration's agenda from the beginning, ever since October 7th. Senior Israeli security officials, including the IDF Chief of Staff and Minister of Defense, have repeatedly advocated for a ceasefire in alignment with the Biden-Harris demands to stop the Gaza offensive, to prevent us from going into Rafah on the Egyptian border, to prevent us from going to war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, all actions that go against the will of the Israeli people who want total victory so that all Israelis evacuated from their homes can return to their homes safely and that no Israeli ever has to fear another October 7th-like infiltration, massacre, and mass raping that took place in 2023. The people of Israel know that only a total victory will achieve that, not any Biden-Harris diplomatic pushed ceasefire that allows our enemies to survive, build up, and threaten us another day, and threaten our lives and our national security. Even the James Bond-like beeper and walkie-talkie operations that dismantled Hezbollah's command structure in Lebanon was initially opposed by these same Israeli senior security officials who only backed it after Netanyahu stood his ground. I'm sure they all challenged Netanyahu on this Iran strike as well, again pushing the Biden-Harris agenda instead. Let's be clear. Justice is on Israel's side in striking back against Iran. But this attack that just took place this Shabbat can only be the beginning. We are witnessing a new reality where Israel can no longer rely on the U.S. administration or U.S. intelligence community to have our back when we do what we have to do to survive. With figures like Maher Bitar in power, the U.S. intelligence apparatus is stacked with individuals who don't just oppose Israeli policy, they actively support those who seek our destruction. In the end, it's simple. Israel will do what Israel must do to protect our lives from our enemies. Even if our closest ally, when we have a hostile administration there, does everything possible to save our enemies instead of helping save us. This recent strike on Iran may be step one, but step two is inevitable. Whether or not it's welcomed by the Biden-Harris administration, Israel's very survival depends on it. The question not is if it's going to happen, but when. Hopefully what we're seeing now with Netanyahu is a continuation of the strategic diplomatic mastery he's shown throughout this war since day one, inching Israel forward step by step despite the overwhelming pressure from the Biden-Harris administration to stop us since day one. From the beginning, they pushed back against Israel going into Gaza, yet we went in. Biden-Harris administration opposed us entering Rafah. Eventually, we went into Rafah, and now it's totally under Israeli control. They were adamantly against us confronting Hezbollah, but in time we found ourselves in the offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon as well. I have two sons fighting there. Each of these decisions was delayed far longer than they should have been, costing precious Israeli lives. But Netanyahu played his cards carefully, diplomatically, following along just enough to appease the Biden-Harris administration, only to be pushed by reality into doing precisely what Israel needed to do all along, despite the Biden-Harris administration pressure. And with each incremental step, the Biden-Harris administration has had to reluctantly accept Israel's actions as circumstances on the ground validated Netanyahu's resolve. Perhaps Netanyahu is employing the same strategy now with Iran, chipping away at Iran's capabilities in stages until we're poised to take the full action necessary to eliminate their nuclear threat. Yes, it's taking longer than it should, but given the immense challenges that we face, especially from a hostile Biden-Harris administration, that seems more sympathetic to Israel's adversaries than to her closest ally, Israel. This approach may be Israel's best chance to secure our survival and ultimately to ensure a freedom-loving world free from the looming menace of a nuclear-armed Iran. Once again, Canada's opposition leader said it as clear as day.
Yesterday you said that you endorse Israel proactively defending itself by hitting Iran's nuclear sites, which is something that President Joe Biden does not endorse. Do you not feel like this could lead to a likelihood of an all-out conventional war between Iran and Israel? And do you not agree with Joe Biden and his assessment?
I think the idea of allowing a genocidal, theocratic, unstable dictatorship that is desperate to avoid being overthrown by its own people to develop nuclear weapons is about the most dangerous and irresponsible thing that the world could ever allow. And if Israel were to stop that genocidal, theocratic, unstable government from acquiring nuclear weapons, it would be a gift by the Jewish state to humanity.
While the freedom-loving world is being led by a U.S. administration more interested in appeasing dictators and terror supporters than confronting them, Israel remains a beacon of strength and resilience, especially under the leadership of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And regardless of how this all plays out, we know one thing. Israel will not wait for permission to defend itself anymore. We don't have that luxury, and we won't take that chance. One way or another, Israel will rise to the challenge, because for us, it's not an issue about policy. It's about our survival. Remember that, everyone. Strengthen your faith in the one above. Stick with the Jewish people. Support us every way you can. Share the truth. And remember, Am Yisrael Chai. We are the internal nation. We're going to overcome our enemies today like we've overcome them for thousands of years. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And we're a donor-based organization. We need your support because we're heavily censored and shadow banned across all social media channels. Every once in a while, click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com. In the meantime, shalom everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.